Hello and welcome to the HTC Gamers Club. My name is Daniel, and today's repair is a box that got Kool-Aid or something sugary, I forget exactly what it was, spilled in it. This is repair number 3339 on file M. The little squiggly marks is basically cheat protection, because it's impossible for people to replicate that via photo. So what we're gonna do is, because the wash and dry with the sonic cleaner and hot alcohol bath did not clear up the problem, we're going to first test some components here. We're going to test, first of all, we're going to test here for shorts, and then even if this is good or even bad, we're going to test some components over here, and then we'll test some components over here, and then we'll test some chips and maybe some continuity on some of the lines coming here, because it could have easily shorted out this, or this, according to where the sticky stuff was showing, although it can be anywhere on the board. So first thing we're going to do is check the power supply, or I should say power in. So let me get you set up right here. Get something on here so that we can do this on. Okay, I'm going to set this to diode. Okay. So we're going to take and we're going to go to right here, and let me see if I can get my hands out of the way. We're going to take and put our probe here. I'll give you a close-up of that, 1 second. This is junction TP8B1. Okay. And then all of the grounds on this will read a direct, hold on, I got a cord in the way. All of the grounds on this will give a direct short. Alright, but all of the others should have resistance values of about 521 plus or minus a little bit. 521, 521, 521. Let's get you up here to where you can see that a little better. Okay. Direct short, direct short, direct short. These are all ground. The lower pins should read roughly 521. Let's get that cord out of the way. Apologize. It's being stubborn. Well, crud. There we go. Okay, let's do that one more time. 520. Good. 519. Good. Looks like 515. Them are all good. Alright, so now we need to check around in here for any shorted chips or burnt out components. We'll switch over to the microscope camera for that. Let's get this checked out. Okay, have to narrate voice over this because I didn't talk during this section. Anyway, what I'm doing here is basically I'm just going to real quick go over a few components. Should have a direct short here. Now this bottom row here is all ground, and all to the same ground. All of these 4 pins at the top should read about 635-ish. And that component there should be direct short. Now what I'm showing you here is just going through very quickly. There are a lot of other components that's in view as well as out of view that can potentially cause problems. Now look here, I can put this pin anywhere on this chip on the bottom and it'll read exactly the same, because all the chips are all the ones on the bottom are the same ground. You'll see that when I remove the chip. Because like I was saying, there's a lot of components that can deal with this. So just checking what I'm showing here will likely not result in you finding your problem. There's hundreds of reasons for not having power, but I wanted to check just these here because of the liquid being in the general area of this particular chip right here, which is exactly what happened. It shorted across here and burned out. The other 3 legs on this are actually reading good, so we will need to replace this chip because there's a short directly across here. Alright, now when it comes to this kind of a repair, the equipment needed to do the replacement exceeds the cost of taking it to a shop. So it'd be best if you just take it to a shop. You can easily kill or knock off a bunch of components and make your repair a whole lot more expensive. Real quick, I'm showing you just me stealing a component off of a donor board, and I will let you see a full removal and replacement of the chip here shortly. Pardon the mess on the shelf, but for this job we need to make certain that the board is off the ground so that none of these components will get knocked off. So what we need to do is protect the bottom side of the board and get it under the microscope. So what I'm going to do is on the corners lift this up, like so. That will prevent anything from touching the components on the bottom, causing it to knock off one of the components should it accidentally be moved. And then we need to remove the bad component, which we have already determined is this little guy right here. Alright, now I would have went through all of this other stuff, but it'd make the video way too long, and we found the bad component rather quickly. Luckily it was a very easily spotted component, and we'll be able to take care of that real quick. Now just because we're replacing this component does not mean it's the only one that's bad, because the short was here, here, and here, according to where the liquid was spotted. Alright, and it burned out this component way over here due to a direct short somewhere here. So hopefully it hasn't damaged the APU or primary chip, because if it did, this chip cannot be replaced. No ifs, ands, or buts. You might as well just replace the system. The CPU key is used for decrypting other chips that are part of the chain of trust and are absolutely not replaceable due to programming. Okay, so we're going to take this one off, and I'm going to show you how to properly remove and replace this chip without damaging it. Okay, so here we go. Let me get set up. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to be doing this in real time, start to finish, from a cold board, so you'll get an idea as to how long this is going to take. Okay, first thing you want to do is get your replacement chip orientated and ready. You'll want it near this chip so that it preheats with the board. I'm going to put just a tiny dab of flux right on the D. You can't see that in the screen, but it's going to sit right there. That tiny bit of flux is just to prevent the air from blowing it away. And then we're going to apply a little bit of flux here, not a lot, and we'll start preheating the board. Okay. These components are not designed to be removed and replaced. They don't like heat, so there's always the possibility of damaging something else. So you want to heat and cool this board as little as possible, thus putting the chip on the board nearby the area that's we're going to be removing the chip. That pre-warms the chip and will allow us to immediately replace the chip without heating the board a second time. Removing the chip, allowing the board to cool, and then reheating the board to place the chip a second time is actually not good for the system. So you're best to do it all in one shot. I'm going to preheat the area real good. Bring the temperature up nice and slow. Now you'll notice when I remove this chip, all four of these bottom ones are all connected to one. And then the two side ones are also connected to the same one. And then these top four are separate individual contact points.
See, that could have been disastrous. Thankfully, I recovered gracefully without knocking any other components around. This kind of work definitely requires a steady hand.
And there you have it. One replaced chip. Board was only heated one time, and we'll have all of our contacts. Now we need to allow this to cool and then clean the board, and then we'll go through and ohm this area out, make sure we got our connections between these pins and the other locations, just to be on the safe side. And then we'll test out the board. Okay, so the board is now cool to the touch, just slightly warm. We're going to start cleaning up. Isopropyl alcohol, some people call it IPA. Nice job.
For the isopropyl alcohol, don't use anything below 91%.
Now, if some of the flux is dried hard, like right here, that come off. You can take your hot air soldering iron, warm up the area just a little bit to get that flux back to flow, and then use your isopropyl alcohol on your Q-tip and clean everything up. The cleaner the better. No need for OCD. Okay, now let me grab my multimeter. And we're going to make sure everything's good. I'm not going to show the multimeter this time around, but everything's good. This board's still warm, so it's reading a little off. We need to check all of these. So this reading here. Right, so we can check these other contacts by putting the probe on this side and then making contact here. That'll take care of these three. This one here we can check the same way, and they are all good. Check here. You'll want to put the probe on the top side of the pins. That lets you know that you're not reading from the pad to here. You're actually reading from the pin to there. Okay, so that's all good. Time to put the board together and test it out. But before I do, I want to point out something to you guys. Remember when we first checked this port out for shorts? Okay, a lot of videos on YouTube, because they're only copying what other people did just for views and revenue, and learning very limited repairs on YouTube, and deciding they're a repairman and charging people for repairs and losing more boxes than they repair most of the time. Remember last time we tested it out? We got all of our grounds were proper. Excuse me. We got all of our proper grounds. Okay. And we got all of our voltages, which were proper. And all three of these, there is absolutely no change, even though I replaced this component right there. Okay, so for these guys to say, if you test this, it rules out any issues over here, is extremely stupid. Okay, it all depends on the specific short, what exactly is wrong. Sometimes this one will be bad exactly as shown and have one or more of these shorted. It's because there's an additional issue somewhere other than this chip. Now, us replacing this chip alone does not guarantee that the board will work. But because we found this, and we know that it was caused by a short, that we were going to go ahead and replace this and we're going to go ahead and test it. Now, I have gone over other components that would normally be shorted out by that. I'm not going into super detail regarding all of that because just don't have time in the video, but I just wanted to point out to you guys that if you're trying to do this following a YouTube video and you got no education in electronics, 80% of the time you're going to fail miserably and you're going to make your repair a lot more expensive. You're much better off paying the money to a repairman that has education, that actually does this all the time, so that you don't go buying a chip or you don't go trying to fix something that's not broken, because you can damage other stuff on the board doing it improperly, heating it up too quickly, heating it up multiple times, accidentally dropping the chip and knocking other components off and forcing you to reheat it a third or a fourth time, getting cold solder joints, all kind of nasty stuff that would just play heck on your game system. So although I'm showing this, this is not a repair tutorial. This is more of a video just to kind of explain to you guys that just because they say this is wrong, that means this is wrong, or if this is not wrong, this is good. It's total garbage. Okay? I'll give you a good example of this. If your disk drive is not reading disks, it does not mean there's anything whatsoever wrong with your disk drive. There are issues on the motherboard, there are issues with the hard drive. All can make the identical symptoms for any one repair on any game system, Xbox, PlayStation, no matter what. Even if your symptoms are absolutely identical, right down to timing, to the guys in the video, you can have upward of 100 different reasons why it's doing the exact same thing. So if you replace a laser on their advice, you may very well wind up spending money you didn't need to, damaging stuff because you're frustrated because it didn't work, or killing your system completely because you did something that you should not have done simply because you was frustrated and you've been spending a lot of money. Now you finally say, okay, I've had it, I'm going to take it to a shop, and then they want to charge you an exorbitant amount to fix the system, because now you, instead of having one problem, you have 2, 3, or 4 problems. Sometimes, if you have 2 separate issues that are unrelated, it makes it absolutely impossible to find either one. So, don't do it. You're better off taking it to a repair shop the first time. A qualified repair shop, one with education. Always ask for education.
Stay safe and happy gaming.